Molt bon dia a tothom. En nom del rector de la Universitat de Barcelona, que no ha pogut acompanyar-nos avui en aquest acte, doncs és un plaer per mi donar-los la benvinguda a la Universitat de Barcelona. Welcome to University of Barcelona on behalf of Professor Varia, or Rector, who couldn't join us today.
It's a pleasure for me to participate in this welcome session, opening session of the 8th meeting of the EUROM network under the hidden taking stock of European memories, policies 2025, memory in times of uncertainty. So I will now give the floor to different members of this table. Ahora procederé a presentar brevemente e introducir a los distintos ponentes de esta mesa, quienes nos darán una visión inicial del objetivo del acto, de su programa y de cómo entienden la participación de nuestras diferentes
institutions in the context of this initiative. So it's a pleasure for me to introduce Mr. Jordi Guixé from EUROM. Thank you so much, Dr. Raúl Ramos, Vice-Rector, dear friends. Also would like to greet to my right Carmina, Gustrán, Commission of Spain in Libertad, 50 years, Political and Democratic Memory, that together with the Secretary of State of Democratic Memory recently we signed an agreement to develop activities, not only activities, but public policies in the territory and many other parts of Europe. Zuzana Dorazilová,
in our house, University of Barcelona, de la Direcció de Justícia.
Deputy Head of Unit, Non-Discrimination and Racism in Rome. Dear friends, Javier Menendez, welcome to your home. I would like to also warmly greet to all the people who was able to make this event come true, which is part of one of the activities we had in the agreement with the City Council of Barcelona, institution that I would like to also greet, even if they're unable to be here. And I would like to thank you all for being here, young people that we invited from the European Observatory of Memories. A key element for you to participate in these meetings. A meeting that is now the 8th edition from Solidarité or Solidaridad Foundation. I'd like to greet its director who's here and the joint person of the Vice-Rector for International Affairs and the Internationalization of the University of Barcelona and Crespo, and all the colleagues that as we do have a close relation. I'd like to greet Rafael Robuski and others that, well, we find this form of taking stock about European policies memory in times of uncertainty. And it's very important to point out that we're still here. It's a hybrid meeting. It's not fully a scholar meeting. We'll have George Mink and other people who are here from the academia and other European institutions of memory. But above all, it's a hybrid meeting with the Secretary of State, España en Libertad, and the associations of memory. I'd like to greet the Federation of Memory Institutions that gather these institutions in Catalonia, and the speakers and friends who joined us here. So this meeting, this hybrid meeting, is so that the practitioners who develop memory policies and we not only do research in this past, but we activate our actions in the civil society. It's very important. I wouldn't like to forget to greet Silvia Pala and her team, and Oriol, with whom we agreed that title of this event with the conflicts all over the world, and Oriol and Andrea, Fernanda from España en Libertad, Carolina, who's also here. We have a couple people who are unable to make it. In any case, there are other people who just landed, but well, I heard that they have the flu. I'll be brief. I wouldn't like to forget, mention the uncertainties that I mentioned before, of wars and atrocities. Today we learned in the news that well, apparently someone willing to buy, to win an international award. I wouldn't like to talk about it, but I think that Tony Blair will be there as a mediator. But the systematic vulneration of human rights, as a genocide in Gaza, and the war. Well, it seems that everything is a never-ending story in the use of Europe and Ukraine. The extreme populism attitudes that we see growingly. We're speaking with George about the French situation. We'll hear more about these topics. And well, these extreme populisms of the right wing, the extreme right, or far right, and how memory. Last year we published a book together with Sarah Gainsbourg. What is memory or historical memory good for? Well, we think that revisiting some of the past crises, some of the atrocities that were committed in the past, even if they leave us paradoxically astonished about the reality of our present. It's also true that well, this has a capacity of transmission while recuperating concepts and situations that are part of this public political crisis of the welfare society. Do you remember it? Welfare society? That was the fruit of the agreements after 1944, 1945, World War II, and obviously the dissolution of empires in the East against Stalinism, etc., and many other dictatorships that are forgotten about in the east of Europe, of some small countries that were there, and we have many memory challenges. And well, from a perspective of autocritic self-criticism, well, we have now a census of the victims of the Spanish Civil War. This memorial, a cemetery in some parts of Spain, some regions in Spain, well, have forgot about, finding about the victims, exile, deportation. Well, this is something that is not even considered due to political considerations. We'll hear about that during these 2 days. There's a hate speech. We'll speak about hate speech through monuments, through public policies, and the crisis of justice and freedom, immigration, migration, exiles, all that has to do with gender, all that has to do with hate, ethnical hate, anti-Islam, anti-Zionism, xenophobia and racism. Well, we spoke a lot about these different types of violence in our recent past, and I would like to reiterate that it's more than necessary than ever to debate about it, to evidence it, and to try to find specific solutions based on the culture of peace and social justice. I will now just finish by reminding that in our society there is a gap and inequalities that due to this lack of historical references about these last few years. With Uriel, we'll try to cover this topic, not the culture, not because of a nostalgia consideration. But we have a Europe of the welfare, of a welfare state. We have a decalogue of points published in 1945. We should pay close attention so that the economic powers would never be above political powers. For now a long time this has been happening. Geostrategically and geoeconomically, it's a world. It's part of the world order. The old Europe is here. The small countries of the old Europe are struggling for the European integrity. Union is more important than ever. This federation of countries who also hope to host new neighbors that are part of Europe that are not part of the European Union. They may be in the near future, and the challenges we have, as we will speak in this event, digital challenges. We all know use them, such as AI. And we'll see what AI brings us to. We have people that are responsible in the European Union for this. I tried to cut the long story short, but I cut it long. We'll go to the different panels with next speakers.
This is your house. This is a public space at the University of Barcelona, in a public university that we have and you should defend. And thank you very much for coming. We are very happy to welcome you from all over Europe and the world. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you.
Moltes gràcies.
Thank you, Jordi, for determining the basis of these work sessions. Right now, it's a pleasure for me to give the floor to Ms. Zuzana Dorazilová, Head of the Unit of Non-Discrimination Coordination Against Racism in the General Director for Justice in the European Commission.
And good morning, everybody. Dear participants, thank you very much for your kind invitation to participate in this conference on behalf and represent the European Commission here. Today we are going to discuss and ask the questions on democracy, whether democracy is at stake and are we in uncertain moments. I think you all have your own answers and we will have a lot of inspiring insights, from many speakers and also from you. For me, as a representative of the European Commission, I just wanted to give you a short insight in the current policies of the European Commission in the area of protection of democracies. European Union is a symbol of peace. We have recently done a Eurobarometer that revealed that almost half of the respondents link peace together with the European Union. We all know the history that is behind that the European Union or European communities at that time were built on the ashes of the Second World War, on the atrocities of the war, on the memory of the Holocaust. And there was one symbol that the guiding words were never again. The EU is also founded on fundamental values such as rule of law, equality, respect for human rights, and democracy. Yet we see that these fundamental challenges that these fundamental values are at stake. They are being challenged a lot. Worldwide, we see really a decline of the proportion of population that live in democracy. There is a study done by a Swedish university in Gothenburg showing that in 2004, there were 51% of population was living in democracy, while now in 2024 it was only 28%. So the decline is really dramatic, and we have to take it seriously because it's not only outside of the EU, but we see really worrying signs in the EU. Democracy is under pressure. We see attempts to undermine the rule of law and media freedom, disinformation. We see a lot of information manipulation coming from all the angles. And we also see clear attempts to our elections, so to interfere with our elections. And we cannot stay relaxed. We have to be vigilant, and we have to protect the democracy. So this is why President von der Leyen proposed last year a new initiative which will be a key priority for the current Commission. It is called EU Democracy Shield, and it will aim to better protect our free people, our free elections, and also make our democratic institutions stronger. It will aim to protect our media and strengthen the resilience of the society. So the preparations of the Democracy Shield are well underway. There was a very wide public consultation. A Commission consulted, of course, with the European Parliament and with a lot of EU institutions, but also with member states, and most importantly with general public and with different stakeholders. And now we are preparing the concrete actions for that Democracy Shield. I cannot share too much, but some Some actions are already being mentioned by our commissioners. So, for instance, we are thinking to create a new European Center for Democratic Resilience, which should bring together a community of experts to support the capacity of member states and neighboring countries to monitor, to detect and coordinate responses to combat information manipulation and disinformation. Another important initiative will be support for European network of fact-checkers, where we will help independent fact-checkers to enhance their capacity to detect, analyze, and counter information manipulation. The support to different networks, for instance, the European Digital Media Observatory, will also continue. These are just few examples of future actions. I don't have time to go more, but one thing is clear, that the best defenders of our democracies are free citizens. And then we also have to strengthen and boost the citizens' engagement in the democratic life. We are going to propose new consultative and participatory tools to encourage, in particular, active participation in elections and in democratic debates, in policy making. Yeah? There is a lot of interest, of course, among citizens, but things can be always improved, and new tools can be put on the table that actually will improve participation of citizens in policy making. We also have to involve more young people and local communities, so we have to go local as well. The Commission will also support civic and democratic education in schools, but also outside for all ages and for all socioeconomic groups. And here we are in the context of the EU funding programs, where we use for funding programs for this kind of activities. So we are going to continue to use the SERF program, Citizens, Equality, Rights and Values program, and its strength focusing on remembrance. So those activities, this support will definitely continue, because support for memory and remembrance is important. Preserving memory is the first step to avoid that atrocities happen again. So we don't want to have those atrocities happening again. And we actually see that they are happening, and very close to the EU and within the EU as well. So we have to step up awareness of the defining moments of the European history, which is, and the topic of the conference is therefore very important, very topical, very timely. Thank you very much for doing this conference, because it's just one part of many, many activities that are taking place in Europe. But it is important that we go local and we discuss, and we are creative and to find maybe new ideas, new tools, how to be even more impactful and have good results and protect our democracy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the intervention. A continuación.
Now we'll give the floor to Ms. Carmina Gustrán, Commissioner for the project Spain in Freedom, 50 years, from the Ministry of Politics and Democratic Memory of Spain. Thank you.
Es un lujo
Welcome. It's
estar aquí hoy
fantastic to be
con
here with all of you to talk about history, memory, public policies, and democracy, because ultimately this is what this commission and this group is doing. We try to evidence the recent past, Franco's dictatorship, the transition to democracy. Our second goal is to celebrate what has been achieved in the area of rights and freedoms, remembering and paying homage to those people that are normally unknown, that don't appear in the history books, that from different neighborhoods, from the universities, from the parishes, from manufacturing plants, supported many of the advances that we are enjoying now. And the third goal is to create areas for dialogue and meeting points like today, to continue considering what is the society we want, what is the best form of democracy, where are we heading to. Such an international event has an effect on our first and third goal, because actually we want to debate, to meet, to share, to learn from what's happening outside of Spain, and also to develop a critical spirit, thinking all together in order to continue building something positive. One of the mottos of the Secretary of State of Policy and Democratic Memory is democracy. That's why speaking about memory policies in the European framework reminds us that Europe is also a community of memory, of learnings that have been shared. The European project was born out of a moral decision. We should never forget what had happened. We should never forget what is happening due to the lack of freedom, what can be destroyed. But it's not only evidence in the past. We want to bring it to the present. We want to explain why it is so important today. Learning about the past means betting for the future. In a moment like this, in the present, that we are witnessing the gasless genocide, where countries of reference in what we understand as democracy embrace intolerance and authoritarianism. And now it's more important than ever to build a Europe in freedom while building a common memory, a memory that is different, that is open, and that is generous. And doing it now with all of you, with young people, with students. Today, when looking back, we do so to state our commitment for the present, for the future, so that never silence substitutes the truth. Fear should never substitute freedom. This event should above all be a meeting point to think about things, and also a place to be committed and to be responsible. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Now we'll tell Mr. Xavier Menendez from the government of Catalonia and democratic memory. So you have the floor, sir. Thank you and good morning. Welcome to Barcelona and to Catalonia. First of all, I would like to convey to you the greetings of the Minister of European Action, Mr. Jamadou, and Minister Mr. Ramon Espadale. We wish you all the greatest of all success in this meeting organized by Europe, devoted to the future of democracy and the role of memory in order to strengthen our free regime of freedom. You have a lot of expertise because this is the 8th edition of this event. And it's always been a revulsive. These meetings are showcasing the public policies of democratic memory in the world. But this edition has a very important value, analyzing the democratic values when they are stepping back when considering the advances of the extreme right all over the place. A few days ago in Portbou, we were thinking about the current crisis of liberal democracies in the framework of the 11th colloquium, Benjamin Colloquium, organized by Memorial Democratic and the University of Girona. And it's evident that public policies of democratic memory have a lot to say about this phenomenon that we are suffering and that we have to fight against. We have to fight against revisionism, negationism, and against the banalization of the dictatorships that we all suffered. That's why public policies of democratic memories, besides its historical goals of repairing damage done to the victims and supporting the fighters of truth, repairing these situations, we have to add prevention as a big goal. We have to add the never again, but all that happens should never happen again. In order to achieve this goal, we need to do research and doctrine. We have to be objective in our analysis of contents, because through debates like as this, we can graft society into or young people into our society in order to help disseminate through these meetings, disseminate the knowledge of what happened while strengthening the positive values of democracy and defending the regime of freedom that was so hard for us to achieve. I was thinking about the motto of this meeting, memories in times of uncertainty, times of resistance and counteroffensive. Well, public institutions for this counteroffensive need the academia to help us, because for us it's very difficult to find formulate recipes in the world of the young to be able to fight against this disaffection against democracy. That's why we believe that with the memory and helping remember what happened, this could be a good recipe or contribution to fight against what's happening. That's why we believe that this debate should be a very important success. Thank you.
Ja per finalitzar,
And now to finish this brief opening event, I would like to address a few words to you. And first of all, I'd like to thank not only the presence of the speakers that we have in the room, and that in one way or another show their commitment, the commitment that the different institutions that are supporting this initiative have, and that want to evidence. It's not so easy to do so, because part of the attributions of my job is participating in such events, and it's so easy to have people from the European Union. We have the state and we have the government of Catalonia. We need someone from the city council that they are represented by the Fundació Solidaritat. So I'd like to thank you all for being here. Obviously, this gratitude should be expanded to the different speakers that will be participating during these intense work sessions during these 2 days. And also, I'd like to thank the participants at sea amongst the public and people of all ages. So, gathering people from different origins, with different profiles and different age ranges is one of the goals that these work sessions intended to achieve. And I would like to congratulate the organizers. As the rector says, the important will happen when we leave. So just a couple comments about the fact that the snapshot that we have used to give this institutional image to today's session has a very important value. First of all, as it was said before, this is a pixel snapshot of a demonstration that requested the reivindication of the rights of the young people in 1978 and the struggle against unemployment. There was a request from that time in history. Well, now we have a disaffection of young people, we have a lack of commitment, and recently we could see mobilizations, numerous mobilizations in many European cities where, young people were very present. We are maybe at the end or at the beginning of the end of this situation that we have been living for the last 2 years. Jordi mentioned Nobel Prize. And outside of these anecdotes, it's true that these mobilizations also helped visibilize the commitment of society in Europe with the values that that the representative of the European Commission mentioned in her presentation. But I wanted to connect this with how problems change and how the historical memory, how this memory is so important. If we think about unemployment as one of the main concerns of our young people, we realize that this is not so relevant anymore. Fortunately, the labor market has evolved and it's a bit more efficient. But the main concern to have a fair salary, or the concern about having a household, not just being the owner, but having a fair home, is a problem that connects with what we are speaking during these 2 days. We have to see how societies change and evolve, and how the historical memory has to be not only reinterpreted, because I'm not part of I'm not a historian, so I cannot speak with full knowledge, but we have to contextualize the sphere of actions. European societies are evolving. We heard about different way of working. The founders of the European Union had different probably ideas, and it's our responsibility as a university to offer these areas of debate that people requested. You will always find University of Barcelona committed to this. And also, we could see the perspective that we know how to do, which is do research and convey the knowledge that we have obtained to society in general, starting with our students. So, I was talking about the composition of the audience with Jordi. We have over 100 people participating in this event, most of them will be students. That's why the work done in EUROM has a procession, and it should help us build a better world, the world that we all want to enjoy. Thank you so much. I will let you continue with the work. Anything we can do from the university, we'll be happy to do. So, thank you.